The flicker of the holographic display cast an eerie blue glow across the dimly lit command room. Captain Lyra Morgan stood at the head of the table, arms crossed, her expression carved from stone. Around her, the senior officers of Frontier Station Omega exchanged anxious glances. The air hung heavy with unspoken fear as the alien figure came into focus. Supreme Warlord Zarthok of the Karok Dominion was an imposing presence, even as a projection. His scaled face twisted into what could only be described as disdain. His deep, guttural voice reverberated through the room. "Humans," he sneered, the word dripping with contempt. "Your claim to Tyrion 7 is over. Surrender the planet within 48 of your standard hours, or your colony will burn." Lyra's jaw clenched, her fingers gripping the edge of the table. She had seen Zarthok's work before. The Adhara massacre haunted her dreams. Civilians reduced to ash, their cries silenced by Karok plasma cannons. She wouldn't let it happen again. The projection continued, Zarthok's tone laced with mockery. "You are weak. Your fleets are scattered. Submit, and I may consider sparing what remains of your pitiful species." With that, the hologram blinked out, leaving the room in silence. Lyra's officers shifted uncomfortably. Finally, Commander Dana Reeve, her second in command, broke the tension. "Well," Dana said dryly, "that was charming." Lyra allowed herself a faint smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. Charming or not, the message is clear. The Karoks want a war. And they'll get one, Dana replied, her tone firm. Lyra straightened, addressing the room. "We're outnumbered and outgunned, but we've faced worse odds before. The Karoks think they can bully us into submission. We're going to prove them wrong." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, though some faces remained uncertain. Lyra didn't blame them. Humanity's fleets were stretched thin, and the Karok Dominion was infamous for its ruthlessness. "Ensign Patel," Lyra called, turning to the station's youngest officer. Rahul Patel, a wiry man in his mid-20s with perpetually unkempt hair, straightened in his seat. "I want a full analysis of the Karok fleet composition. Weaknesses, patterns, anything we can exploit." "Yes, ma'am," Patel said, his voice steady despite the tension in the room. "Commander Reeve," Lyra continued, "start preparing evacuation plans for the civilians on Tyrion 7, but keep it quiet. We don't want to cause a panic." Dana nodded. "Understood." Lyra glanced around the room, her gaze sharp. "We have 48 hours to make a stand." "Dismissed." As the officers filed out, Lyra lingered, staring at the now empty holographic display. She could still see Zarthok's scaly face in her mind, could still hear the screams from Adhara. "This time will be different," she murmured to herself. Later that evening, Lyra stood on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. The station orbited a barren moon, giving her an unobstructed view of the vast void. Somewhere out there, the Karok fleet was gathering. The sound of boots against metal pulled her from her thoughts. Dana stepped beside her, holding 2 steaming mugs. "Figured you could use this," Dana said, handing Lyra a mug of synth coffee. Lyra took it with a nod of thanks, the warmth seeping into her fingers. "I keep thinking about Adhara," she admitted after a moment. Dana leaned against the railing, her expression softening. "That wasn't your fault, Lyra. I was in command. I made the call to hold the line, and we lost everything." Lyra's voice was quiet, but the weight of her guilt was palpable. "You didn't have the resources to win that fight," Dana said firmly. "But this time, we're going to make sure we do." Lyra gave her a faint smile. "I appreciate the vote of confidence." The following morning, the station's tactical room buzzed with activity. Patel stood at the center, gesturing to a holographic map of the Karok fleet. "Based on recent scans, the Karoks have deployed a strike force here," he said, pointing to a cluster of glowing red icons near Tyrion 7. "Their ships are heavily armed but rely on centralized coordination. If we can disrupt their command network, we might be able to create some chaos." "And how do we do that?" Dana asked, arching a brow. Patel hesitated. We'd need to infiltrate their flagship and disable the AI core that controls their fleet coordination. It's risky, but it's our best shot. Lyra studied the map, her mind racing. We'll need a diversion, she said finally. Something to draw their attention away from the infiltration team. I can lead a strike team, Dana offered. Lyra nodded. Good. Patel, I want you on the infiltration team. You'll need to guide them through the Karok systems. Patel's eyes widened slightly, but he nodded. Understood. Hours later, alarms blared across the station as a Karok scouting party approached. Lyra sprinted to the command center, her heart pounding. Status report, she barked. A small Karok force is heading straight for us, a junior officer reported. Looks like they're testing our defenses. Lyra's mind raced. If the Karoks were probing their strength, they needed to send a message that humanity wasn't to be underestimated. Prepare the fleet, she ordered. Deploy decoys in the asteroid field and arm the railguns. Let's give them a warm welcome. The battle was short but intense. The Karok ships moved with mechanical precision, their sleek designs slicing through the void like blades. But Lyra's strategy paid off. The decoys lured the Karok ships into a trap, and the railguns tore through their ranks. When the final Karok ship exploded in a blinding flash of light, a cheer erupted across the station. Lyra allowed herself a moment of satisfaction before turning to her crew. Good work, everyone. But this was just the beginning. Patel, keep analyzing their patterns. Reeve, start coordinating with the fleet. We need to be ready for their main force. Yes, ma'am, they replied in unison. As Lyra watched her crew spring into action, a spark of hope ignited in her chest. The odds were against them, but humanity had faced impossible challenges before. And this time, they wouldn't just survive. They would fight. The metallic hum of Frontier Station Omega was a steady reminder of its fragility in the vast expanse of space. Captain Lyra Morgan stood in the center of the command bridge, her sharp gaze fixed on the tactical display. The holographic map of the surrounding sector blinked ominously with red markers, the Karok fleet's advanced scouts. They're coming in fast, Commander Dana Reeves said, her voice calm but edged with tension. Lyra nodded, her mind running calculations. Status on our defenses? Shields at 80% capacity, replied Ensign Rahul Patel from the tactical console. His voice wavered slightly, though his hands moved deftly over the controls. Railguns are charged, and the decoy drones are in position in the asteroid field. Good, Lyra said firmly. This isn't a fight we can win outright. Let's see if they're as arrogant as their warlord. The Karok arrival. Within minutes, the Karok scout ships came into view, sleek, predatory vessels gliding through the darkness. Their formations were tight, moving with eerie synchronicity, like a school of sharks circling their prey. 6 ships, Patel announced. Frigates, light armor, but fast. They're scanning us. Lyra's eyes narrowed. Hold fire. Let them think we're on the defensive. The Karoks approached cautiously, their ships weaving through the asteroid field. On Lyra's command, the decoy drones activated, emitting faint energy signatures that mimicked the station's auxiliary vessels. They're splitting up, Dana observed, a small smile tugging at the corner of her mouth. Patel, signal the railgun crews, Lyra ordered. Fire when they're in range. The first blast ripped through the silence, a railgun slug tearing into the lead Karok frigate. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash, debris scattering like shattered glass. Direct hit. Patel exclaimed. Stay focused, Lyra snapped. They'll adapt quickly. The battle unfolds. The Karoks responded with brutal efficiency, their remaining ships breaking formation and darting through the asteroid field. Plasma bolts streaked through space, narrowly missing the station's shields. Shields down to 60%, Patel reported, his voice tight. Divert power from non-essential systems, Lyra said, her tone steady. And keep those drones moving. We need to keep them guessing. Sergeant Elena Drax's voice crackled over the comms. Captain, we've got boarding craft headed our way. Looks like they're aiming for the maintenance bay. Lyra's lips thinned. Drax, take your Marines and intercept them. Use whatever force is necessary. With pleasure, Drax replied, a hint of grim satisfaction in her tone. Inside the station. In the dimly lit corridors of the station, Sergeant Drax and her team moved like shadows, their boots silent against the metal floor. The faint hiss of the boarding craft docking was their only warning before the Karok soldiers poured in. Drax raised her rifle, barking orders. Focus fire. Keep them pinned. The firefight was brutal and claustrophobic, plasma bolts scorching the walls as human and Karok forces clashed. The Karoks were relentless, their movements precise and calculated, but Drax's Marines fought with the desperate ferocity of those defending their home. A Karok soldier lunged at Drax, its jagged blade aimed for her throat. She sidestepped, driving the butt of her rifle into its chest before pulling the trigger. The alien crumpled, its armor smoking. Bay secured, Drax reported over the comms, her voice breathless but triumphant. For now. A Pyrrhic victory. Back on the bridge, the tactical display showed the Karok scout ships retreating, their formations scattered. The railguns had taken out 3 more frigates, and the remaining 2 were limping away. Enemy retreating, Patel confirmed. Lyra exhaled slowly, her shoulders relaxing for the first time in hours. Casualties? 2 frigates destroyed, Dana said quietly. Shields are at 30%. We've got structural damage on Deck 7, and the med bay is filling up fast. Lyra nodded grimly. Send repair crews to Deck 7. And make sure the med bay has everything they need. The silence that followed was heavy. The station had survived, but it was clear to everyone on the bridge that this was just the beginning. The Karok weakness. Hours later, Lyra stood in the tactical room with Patel and Dana. The holographic display showed the wreckage of a Karok frigate, its jagged edges illuminated by searchlights. This is what we managed to recover, Patel said, gesturing to the image. Their tech is advanced, but... But what? Lyra pressed. Patel hesitated, then pointed to a glowing node near the ship's core. Their fleet coordination relies on centralized AI systems. It's how they move so efficiently. If we could disrupt that AI, we could throw their entire fleet into chaos, Dana finished, her eyes lighting up with realization. Lyra leaned forward, her mind racing. What would it take to disable the AI? Patel rubbed the back of his neck. We'd need to infiltrate their flagship. That's where the central AI core is likely housed. It's not exactly a low-risk operation. Dana snorted. That's putting it mildly. Lyra's gaze hardened. Low risk or not, it's our best shot. Patel, start working on a plan. We'll need to know exactly what we're up against. Yes, ma'am, Patel said, already typing on his datapad. Zardhawk's taunt. As the team worked, a transmission interrupted their discussion. Zardhawk's scaly face appeared on the holographic display, his expression one of smug satisfaction. Impressive, he said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. 4 primitives. Lyra's hands curled into fists, but she kept her tone icy. What do you want, Zardhawk? To offer you one final chance to surrender, he replied. Your resistance is amusing, but futile. If you insist on defying me, I will make an example of you. The screen shifted, showing footage of a human outpost, its buildings reduced to rubble, its people fleeing in terror as Karok ships bombarded the surface. Dana swore under her breath, and Patel looked away, his jaw tightening. Lyra stared at the screen, her expression unreadable. You've already made one mistake, Zardhawk, she said coldly. And what's that? He sneered. You underestimated us. The transmission cut off, leaving the room in silence. A plan takes shape. Lyra turned to her team, her voice steady but steely. We need to hit them where it hurts. Patel, I want a detailed layout of their flagship by tomorrow. Dana, start assembling a strike team. We're taking the fight to them. Understood, Dana said, her tone resolute. As the room cleared, Lyra remained, staring at the holographic map of the Karok fleet. The battle had cost them dearly, but it had also revealed a glimmer of hope. And hope was all she needed. The dimly lit hangar of Frontier Station Omega buzzed with quiet urgency. The infiltration team, handpicked by Lyra Morgan herself, stood in a semicircle as Commander Dana Reeve laid out the final details of their mission. The tension in the air was palpable. "Listen up," Dana said, her voice low but commanding. Her sharp gaze swept over the team. "The Karok flagship, Vorax Wrath, is stationed here." She gestured to the holographic map of the enemy fleet hovering in front of her. "Our intel places their AI core at the heart of the ship, protected by layered defenses and their elite guard. Patel will guide us through their systems, but once we're inside, every second will count. You all know the stakes." A murmur of acknowledgement rippled through the team. Sergeant Elena Drax, her armor freshly patched from the previous skirmish, cracked her knuckles. "Just point me to what needs breaking." Rahul Patel, standing nervously at the edge of the group, adjusted his datapad. "Breaking is the easy part," he muttered. "Getting out alive? That's the real trick." Dana smirked. "That's what I'm here for." Lyra entered the hangar, her presence immediately commanding silence. She walked to the front of the group, her tone steady. "This mission is a gamble, but it's the best shot we have to stop Zardhawk. You're the best we've got. Trust each other, and don't hesitate. The Karoks won't." She locked eyes with Dana. "You've got this." Dana nodded. "We won't let you down." "See that you don't," Lyra replied, a flicker of a smile crossing her face. The infiltration. The stealth shuttle glided through the black void, its cloaking field shimmering faintly against the backdrop of stars. Inside, the team sat in tense silence. Patel's fingers flew over his datapad, his eyes darting between screens as he monitored their approach. "We're coming up on the flagship," he said, his voice tight. "Cloaking is holding, but their detection grid is tight. I'll have to cut through it manually once we dock." Dana leaned forward, her tone calm. "You can do it, Patel. Just keep your head." As the shuttle latched onto the Vorax Wrath, the faint vibration of the docking clamps reverberated through the hull. The team moved swiftly, their boots silent on the metal floor as they exited into the Karok ship's maintenance sector. The corridors were dark and oppressive, lit only by faint red emergency lights. Patel led the way, his datapad glowing softly in the gloom. "The AI core is 5 levels down," he whispered. "We'll have to bypass a security hub first." Drax hefted her rifle. "Let me guess, heavily guarded." Patel gave her a strained smile. "Naturally." The security hub. As they approached the hub, the hum of machinery grew louder. Dana held up a fist, signaling the team to stop. Peering around the corner, she spotted a squad of Karok guards stationed near a glowing console. Their movements were methodical, their weapons gleaming in the crimson light. 6 of them, Dana whispered. "Drax, you and Patel disable the console. The rest of us will handle the guards." Patel's eyes widened. "Me? In the middle of a firefight?" "You'll be fine," Drax said with a grin, patting him on the shoulder. The attack was swift and brutal. Dana's team struck with precision, their weapons lighting up the corridor in bursts of blue and orange. The Karoks fought fiercely, their guttural war cries echoing through the narrow space, but the humans' coordinated assault left them no chance. As Drax covered him, Patel darted to the console, his hands flying over the alien interface. "Almost, got it," he muttered, beads of sweat forming on his brow. The console beeped, and the lights dimmed. "We're clear," Patel announced, a mix of relief and exhilaration in his voice. "Good," Dana said. "Move out." The AI core. The team descended deeper into the ship, the air growing colder and the corridors more labyrinthine. The oppressive hum of the ship's systems seemed to press against their skulls. Finally, they reached the AI core, a massive chamber dominated by a pulsating orb of light suspended in the center. Conduits snaked out from the orb like veins, disappearing into the walls. Patel's jaw dropped. That is more advanced than I expected. Focus, Dana said. What do you need? Patel knelt by a terminal, connecting his datapad. I need time. The AI will know I'm in its system as soon as I start disabling it. You'll get your time, Dana said, gesturing for the team to take defensive positions. As Patel worked, the room filled with a low, ominous hum. The orb's light flickered, and a voice echoed through the chamber, a cold, mechanical tone. Unauthorized access detected. Intruders will be neutralized. The doors slammed open, and Karak elites poured in. The fight for survival. The firefight was chaos. Plasma bolts crisscrossed the chamber, ricocheting off the walls and narrowly missing the team. Drax's voice boomed over the din. Hold the line. Don't let them through. Dana moved with lethal precision, taking down enemies with quick, efficient shots. Drax was a whirlwind of destruction, her rifle mowing down Karoks as she barked orders to her squad mates. Patel's hands shook as he typed furiously. I'm almost there, he shouted over the noise. Work faster. Dana yelled back, firing at a Karok trying to flank them. A Karok soldier lunged at Patel, its blade gleaming. Drax tackled it, driving her knife into its throat. Keep your head down, Patel, she growled. I'm trying. Patel snapped, his voice cracking. The orb's light flickered violently, and the AI's voice grew distorted. Systems, compromised, warning. Patel's face lit up with triumph. Got it. Disabling fleet coordination now. The orb pulsed one final time before going dark. The hum of the ship's systems faltered, and the remaining Karok elites hesitated, their movements suddenly disorganized. The escape. Time to go. Dana shouted. The team fought their way back through the corridors, the Karok's once coordinated attacks now chaotic and fragmented. Explosions rocked the ship as its systems failed, and alarms blared. As they reached the shuttle, Patel collapsed into a seat, his chest heaving. I can't believe we pulled that off. Drax chuckled, wiping blood from her armor. You'd better believe it, techie. Dana smirked, turning to the pilot. Get us out of here. The shuttle detached just as the Vorax Wrath began to implode, its once imposing frame crumbling under its own weight. The aftermath. Back on Frontier Station Omega, Lyra stood in the command center, watching as the Karok fleet scattered. Their ships moved erratically, their formations broken without the AI's guidance. Cheers erupted across the station as the crew realized what had happened. Dana entered the room, battered but alive, with Patel and Drax behind her. Lyra met her with a rare smile. You did it. We all did, Dana replied. Lyra's gaze shifted to the fleeing Karok fleet. This isn't over, but today, we showed them what humanity is capable of. And for the first time in a long while, hope burned bright.